Greetings, everybody. This is Kurt Mull, Director of Digital Media Innovation and Strategy, with a brief presentation related to the replacement of networking equipment. Why is this coming before you tonight? There are some important updates included in this brief presentation related to fiscal stewardship and the use of resources in our system related to upgrading and updating our networking equipment. And this meets our culture of operational excellence, which states that we are prioritizing the investment of our resources to support our educational experiences in and out of the classroom. And this works to also serve our teams that are meeting and striving to meet our organizational mission. There's some details here in this presentation related to where some of this revenue is coming from related to E-rate funding. And so I want to spend a couple of seconds talking about E-rate because we typically don't bring this forward, because we typically don't ask for dollar amounts that cross the $250,000 threshold. And so whatever amount we bring forward in E-rate in Sun Prairie is eligible for up to a 50% discount, and actually comes back to us from the federal government in the form of a reimbursement or a revenue to our system. And so for every dollar that we spend on networking equipment in Sun Prairie, we get a reimbursement of 50 cents from the federal government. And where does that money come from? So if you look at your cell phone bill or your home phone bill, if you still have one, or your internet bill, there should be a line item on there that actually says E-rate. And that E-rate is a tax. And that tax is a very small amount of money, sometimes maybe 73 cents or $1.26 or some odd number like that. But when you put all of the people who have these services and pay this tax together into one lump sum, there are billions and billions of dollars available to local entities like our school district or like our library system that allows us to gain access to high quality internet services regardless of the location or the economic status of our community. And for us in Sun Prairie, we're limited to what we can actually submit for reimbursement. And so it needs to be related to physical equipment or services related to that physical equipment. So we spend the money on things that provide us networking or internet access, things like access points, routers, and switches. And this whole process starts in early winter or with the form. It's called a Form 470, and we use that to name the equipment that we would like to purchase. The USAC is the name of the organization that puts this 470 out to bid, and bidders have a lot of time to respond with a bid for that equipment. And then we review the bids and choose the winning bidder. So not all that much different than an RFP process. The main differentiation being that this entire process is meant to bring market competition, to keep rates down to public entities that are seeking services and goods, and it's all done so within the full transparency of this process. And so there is a really great example of a public-private partnership that takes place within the E-rate process, and it allows us to get lowest cost equipment and also high quality equipment at the same time. All right, so just a bit about the project. We are looking to replace networking equipment at Central Heights, East High School, Patrick Marsh, and Prairie View. Much of this equipment is beyond its useful life and is 7 years old. This is within our network replacement cycle, and we had anticipated using E-rate all along for this project. And so we'd look to do this in late July and early August to minimize the amount of downtime to students or staff that are seeking to use our network. And so there's some financial implications here. So taking a step back to the 470 process, we had 4 companies submit bids to us. Heartland Business System was the winning bid based on our bid criteria sheet, which is also attached to the situation report. They are not the lowest bid. But what I will say is the other 3 companies provided specifications on equipment that would either not be compatible with our current network or would require us to buy additional services in order to bring them into alignment with our current network, which would have increased the cost beyond what Heartland Business Systems actually spec'd out for us. And so we're moving forward with Heartland Business Systems with the recommended bid and the approval request for $429,299. There's some nuance to that, and I want to spend a second or two breaking down where those costs are going to come from, because there's an important story about fiscal stewardship here as well. Of the $429,299, $103,000 is related to licensing fees that are either charged by Cisco or the companies that have a proprietary relationship with this networking company. And that's just not an appropriate use of Fund 49 referendum money. Those one-time fees and expenses related to software as a service or licensing fees is not something that we would physically install, that would be physically present in a building, and just not an appropriate use for the secondary referendum funds. And so that $103,000 is actually going to live on the General Fund 10 Technology Department Fund. We have money earmarked for this and had this money earmarked and set aside. And after reimbursement, that total final amount of $51,500 falls well within the scope of our general fund budgeted for network replacement in the technology budget. The remaining cost for the physical equipment on site is $326,299. This will be encumbered out of Fund 49 or the referendum money. It will also be reimbursed at a 50% rate, and the actual final amount that will come out of Fund 49 is $163,150. And so the total amount is well over the $250,000 threshold, as you can see. And even the 50% reimbursement rate still puts us within the ballpark of needing to bring this forward to the board to have a thoughtful conversation and consideration, even though the final total reimbursed amount would fall below the $250,000 threshold. And so just for the sake of full transparency, we wanted to bring this forward to the board for consideration, for a recommendation. And again, that initial total amount is above the total threshold. The final cost is below the threshold. We're bringing it forward for your approval and your consideration. If you have any questions about this, how E-rate works, where the money is coming from in the technology department fund, how the revenues work, please feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for listening, and have a great night.